Hi there. Today we're going to talk a little bit about how the muscles and tissues actually work along your spine and your back. A lot of people think that your joints are actually popping out of joint and then a chiropractor pops them back in. And that's really not how it works at all. So I'm going to show you how these muscles actually work. A lot of the muscles that we're working on are actually deep stabilizer muscles. These little tiny muscles stabilize the spine and hold things together. Let me show you a picture. If you want to look here, all of the little red stripes you see here are muscles. You've got your head, your neck, and your shoulders. We're looking at the back. All the big movement muscles have been taken away. And what you're looking at are the little tiny stabilizers that hold things together segmentally, meaning from each vertebrae. Now what happens is when you have an accident or an injury or a trauma, when you have that injury, your bigger muscles get hurt, and then when the stress of that comes in here, these little tiny muscles can get hurt. And when you think about it, when a muscle gets hurt, what happens to it? It's going to spasm, right? It's going to spasm and it's going to contract down. Kind of think of it like this. If I were to hurt my arm muscle here, if all of a sudden I had a trauma and it hurt this muscle, that muscle would do what? It would contract and it would shorten down. And then what would happen is I would kind of hold it like that to baby it. And if we left it like that over time, pretty soon I wouldn't even be able to open my arm anymore. The muscles will have contracted and shortened. They would just stay that way. And then what would happen is here I have this contracted muscle, and pretty soon I have no function anymore. So then the question is, how do I get the function back? Now could you just come in and pull on my arm and jerk it open one time if it had been kind of restricted and closed like this for say 10 years? Could you just come in and jerk on my arm and it would be normal? Probably not. In fact, you would pull on that and I wouldn't like it at all, and as you pulled on that, as soon as you let go, what would happen to my arm? It would slowly pull back to how it was. And so what happens when we're doing adjustments, it stimulates those deep muscles to relax. As they relax, the muscle then lengthens and then it wants to pull back to how it was. And so then you need to adjust it again, and it wants to pull back. And you need to do it again, and it wants to pull back. And as you do that repetitiously over time, these muscles actually lengthen, they pull back less and less and less, and you actually restore that function back to normal. When that's happening with these little tiny stabilizer muscles, if you want to take a look at those again, these little tiny stabilizers, when one of them is contracted and shortened down, and it's been injured, trying to even stretch that's not going to work because the little muscles that are hurt are not going to stretch. It will allow all your bigger muscles to stretch, and they'll protect that area so you can't even stretch it. So the idea is by stimulating the muscle to relax, we'll get that to reflexly relax through the adjustment, restore that motion. And then as it pulls back, we do it again. As it pulls back, we do it again. And that's where the frequency comes in. So a lot of people always ask, well, how frequent do I need to come? And you've probably figured it out by now. Frequency changes the muscle and tissue. So it's kind of like going to the gym. If I go to the gym, you got to do it enough that you see changes. We got to pull on an arm that's been restricted enough to see changes. We also have to adjust those deep muscles enough to see changes. And that's where you need to be working on it at least 3 times a week to really see those changes. So then the question is, how do you know when the changes are in? If you've been in, hopefully you know the answer is by the testing that we do. The testing will show you when those muscles are functioning normally or not. And that's the whole key to the whole thing.